we're getting all set for the start of the classic GT race. Heading up, it's going to be a 50-minute encounter, and it's going to be a close-fought battle on a track that is getting drier and drier. But if you go offline, you could be on the wet stuff. And we're ready for the race to get underway, and it is underway right now. And it's Cobra versus Cobra as they head up towards the first corner. The Roy Alderslade Andrew Jordan car, but not getting away terribly well. That was a big start for the number 69 car. Where did that come from? That was 8th on the grid. Patrick Shovlin in that car, and Michael Cullen there sharing that car together. Where did that come from? I don't quite know how it made such a brilliant getaway then.
Yes, I wonder whether it was already running quickly before the lights went out and managed to get through, but we'll see. And we can see there the gold and red car of Ollie Bryant as well up as the rest of the field stream through the loop. And the cars will continue coming, won't they? And it's Paddy Shovlin who is leading, and that looks like
That's Callum Lockie. Well, it'll be Julian, won't it, in the car now?
Yeah, Julian will have started. Yeah, Julian Thomas, and then it's Ollie Bryant in third place. He's driving solo, and Paddy Shovlin going very wide. So Julian Thomas takes the lead. Ollie Bryant into second place. Shovlin in third, and then it's the second of the Cobras in fourth, or the normal shape Cobras, my apologies, in fourth place. Then the first of the TVRs, and that's Mike Whitaker in fifth place. In fourth place is the Cottingham and Stanley car.
Yeah.
Generally it'll be James Cottingham who starts.
Yeah, so and that's running well strongly at the moment, isn't it? Beautiful car, that number 21. So we think that's James Cottingham at the wheel, working at the wheel, as you can see. Lots of corrections going on as he goes through Cobb's Corner. But a very good start to the race for Julian Thomas in the Cobra after that brilliant getaway. I don't quite know. We might have to look at the start again to see how Paddy Shovlin managed to shove his way right to the front, having started on what was meant to be fourth row. We've got a nasty incident. I think that's at Cobb's Corner, and a destroyed front end on a Lotus, I think. Oh, that's a very sad sight indeed. We may well get a safety car as a result of that, because that is in a dangerous position, I would say, and I think race control may well have a look. Number 46 just moving up in the order. That's Mike Whitaker in his TVR. You just saw that in the background. He was busy challenging. I don't know whether he got through or not. Number 15 is Ollie Bryant in his Cobra, but out front it is Callum Lockie. No sign of a safety car yet. I'm just looking at our timing screens, but yeah, no indication. They may just be yellow flags. They may be able to get the car out of the way without bringing the safety car out. Just depends. Access to the car where it's gone off is pretty good. There you are. It's just that cars are travelling quickly. Let's have a look at what happened. Well, there was a couple of spins. It was the number 84 car sadly got hit while it was spinning around the Steve Jones Chris Atkinson Elan, and it got a big hit from, I think, a 911 that was coming through at the time.
I think there was another Elan involved in that as well, wasn't there, that had damage already. There was obviously a multiple incident.
Very sad. To see the damage done to a beautiful classic car like that always hurts me. But it's the risk you take in racing. If you're going to go motor racing, damage is always a potential incident, and it's always worth putting it back together. Cars are worth great money, of course, and somebody will do a brilliant job, I'm sure, of putting it all back to how it should be. So there's our race leader at the moment. It is Julian Thomas in this Le Mans style AC Cobra, the coupe version, with a little bit more aero effect to it, and a very rapid motor car with a big American engine in it.
Yeah, interestingly, all of the cars in the first 4 or 5 places, as we see the incident again, so there was another car involved
yes,
at the back.
That was separate though, wasn't it?
And the Porsche caught the front of the Elan. Did a lot of damage there. I don't think the Porsche would have got away from that without significant damage as well.
No, I agree with that. Sadly, could well be out of the race as well. So not the ideal start, but they seem to still be pushing on. Sign of, we've just got yellow flags up at that zone, but yeah, they haven't had to bring the safety car out, so they are still pushing on. We've got 45 minutes to go in this race,
and just confirming that the Porsche did go out as well in that incident.
Safety car still sitting there. not being called at the moment. So it is still the, oh no, it is being called, right, okay, it suddenly has come up on our screen. Safety car. I'm wondering why it took a little while to do that, but maybe they felt they could move the abandoned cars. It might be that something else has happened now. Hands up out of the cockpit, and that is somebody just registering that it has been seen. When you see the sign for the safety car, it is often worth acknowledging it, because some people are busy racing you and don't see the indications that safety car has been released and that it's time to back off, no overtaking, and just come down to a sensible pace. So this is going to bring everybody into line once again, no overtaking. They are wherever they have been after the start of this race. Dry line developing through all of the corners now. It does make it a little tricky when you move offline, but to be fair, I think there's definitely overtaking space, enough dry area to allow for some overtaking. But a couple of cars that have now retired from this race in the early stages. What a great shame, when they've been waiting around, looking forward to this event for months and months, and then you suddenly find you're out of the race in the early stages. It's a very disappointing factor, but that is motorsport. There are highs and lows. The people that get on the podium, big highs. The people who end up retiring after a lap or two, that's a dip. But it's all part and parcel of this game that we enjoy. So Julian Thomas, who will be sharing with Callum Lockie in their Cobra, the race leader, Ollie Bryant and another Cobra running in second position. And then Mike Whitaker in the TVR, he managed to get up into third place. So you'll see, yeah, the rather sort of pale blue 46 car, that is the TVR that is running in third position behind the two Cobras. And
it uses the same engine as the Cobras around it, the 4.7 litre V8 Ford engine, which was also used in the GT40 as well. So a very well used engine in racing, but that was slotted into the front, shoehorned might be a better description, into the front of that TVR. Okay, well, another Elan there parked up. I think that's the number. I think it was the number 6 car, wasn't it? Paul Toombs, Stuart Tissot car. We'll have another look at the start, because I want to see how the number 69 car came through so rapidly at the start, and try and work out what Paddy Shovlin did. So Paddy is quite long. He's back on the third row of the grid in the red and white car. How did he come through so quickly? They were coming up to the line. So we're watching over to the right. If you look over to the right-hand side, suddenly he just charges away. And to be fair, he gets up between those other, he just accelerates so fast. Incredibly fast off the line. It looked genuine. It didn't look as though he jumped the start. It's a bit hard to tell from that angle, of course, but that got him in front. Yes, and then had a problem a little later round the lap. He ran wide at Luffield and lost a couple of places as the marshals working away to try to recover. We don't know how many cars we've got to recover there, do we? There's the Porsche that was involved in the incident, the number 65 Porsche, which is the Mark and James Bates. Now, was it Nicky interviewed them? I think it was Nicky interviewed them yesterday in the pits. It may have been Ed, but I remember that the Mark and James chatting about racing in this car, and they're out on the first lap. Oh, so disappointing, isn't it, with the damage done, and they'll feel awful as well about the damage done to the Lotus, but there was nothing they could do. It's one of those situations, the car spinning, they probably couldn't actually see what was going on. There was a real bunch of cars. It was just a question of trying to get your line through the corner, and suddenly there's this spinning car in front of you. Damage on one of the Cobras as well, cart number 4, that's the Richard Wilson, Gary Pearson car. So that's a shame, although it does seem to be running around. It qualified down in 28th place on the grid, and it is still running quite a long way down. It's 19th. They haven't quite got that car out of the way, though. It's going to be difficult to move with all the damage to the front end. I think they'll have the flatbed truck with the crane on it to get that, and they had to wait for all the cars to go past that point, which they've now done. So the marshals are able, that's the little ogle. Oh, that's lovely, isn't 107 on the side. That's Mark Burnett, who is the driver of the Mini Traveller that we saw in the Mini race yesterday. And that is based on a Mini, isn't it? It is based on a Mini, plastic body with a Mini running gear, and he's sharing with the great Mini driver Nick Swift. Yeah. So that'll go well.
I hope we get to see a bit more of that. Yes, it's right in the middle of the pack there, and it's a delightful little machine. It really is. Quite rare, of course, as well. So, yeah, plenty of different vehicles. There it is. You can see it in the middle of that group. Tiny little machine that it is, based on the Mini. But it's got good pace. And as you say, Nick Swift, who's going to be driving it as well, it's got potential for some great pace. Fascinating little machine it is.
Yeah, one of the many cars that were, some were kit cars and some were, oh, he's going into the pits by the looks of it. Is that what he's saying?
It does look like it, doesn't it?
He's got his arm out of the window, but he's not anywhere. Oh yes, he is coming up to the pit lane. So not sure. Maybe a problem with the ogle.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have started talking about it.
No, clearly not. But it's certainly not time for a pit stop. I mean, you might say, oh, a safety car, that's why he's coming in. No, I'm afraid the pit window isn't open, so you can't actually officially do your driver change now and not get a penalty at this point. It's too early in the race. Car number 20 there is Marco Attar Jack Moody. No, it's not. That's who. Sorry, that was the 30 car. The Charles Allison Peter Thompson Cobra. That's what that car is. I was looking at the number 30. As we get that car moved out of the way, the badly damaged little Lotus, number 84, and Steve Jones and Chris Atkinson, who are driving that car, no doubt very, very disappointed.
That's Nick Swift we're looking at there with his coat on, but he's got his fireproof overalls underneath. He's, as always, straight in there working on the car.
I wonder what the issue is here.
He's looking at the front wheel, isn't he? So it's either wheel bearing, I would say, he's probably suggesting is the problem there. Although drive shaft as well, front wheel drive, so it could be drive shaft.
Yeah. Or a brake grabbing problem, who knows? Spinning wheels, trying to work out what's going on. Car obviously sponsored in the day by a famous manufacturer of a crucial part of engines in the day. Nice to see that kind of livery, but I just hope they can get the car back out. I'd love to see it out there racing. Well, the Marshals doing a fine job as ever. Our hearts are out for the Marshals today. We learnt only overnight of the tragic loss of a Marshal at Brands Hatch yesterday. The Marshals, they're all volunteers, they all come along, and it's so lovely to see you guys, men and women alike, who just get involved in every aspect of motorsport and make it happen. Without Marshals, motorsport would not happen. So many, many thanks to everybody who's here this weekend, but also our thoughts are very much with the family of the Marshal who lost their life at Brands Hatch yesterday. So the safety car still out. It's not going to be out for too much longer now that they've actually picked that Lotus up. And hopefully we will be going back to some racing action fairly soon.
Well, somebody's been into the pit lane and dropped some oil. We don't know who that was because we can't see which pit it is. But the Marshals there working away. Even in the pit lane they have to clear the oil up because it could get on someone's tyres. We're looking here at the leader, Julian Thomas, from Ollie Bryant, from Mike Whitaker, Paddy Shovlin, and then James Cottingham. And
yeah, everybody's weaving around, waiting to see if the safety cars can be. We're not getting the indication yet that it's coming in. Normally it's around this area where the lights go out, but still running. He was running a fairly slow pace. He might be waiting to see if race control give the signal, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet. So they may well be doing another lap behind the safety car before they are released into race action once more.
I was just questioning in my mind there, you said Paddy Shovlin at the beginning of the race.
Yeah.
Did you have that information?
I didn't,
No.
so we were guessing.
That's right,
So
okay.
who do you think it is?
Well, I don't know. I just thought maybe you'd had information because we're struggling obviously without any start drivers. We know it's Julian Thomas because he always starts his own car, and then Callum Lockie takes over. And in second place, Ollie Bryant is driving solo, as is Mike Whitaker. But just questioning
that's
of those two.
absolutely
which it
fair.
might
I
be,
don't know
yeah.
I don't know for sure it was Paddy. It was just that I thought, well, let's go with one of them and let's hope it's them. Because we haven't been given a list, I'm afraid. Normally we would be given the list of who is the start driver, but that hasn't been issued. So we're struggling a little bit to know who's in which car at this point. We know who shares the cars between themselves, but we don't know who's in the start.
I didn't know.
This is having another little look at the incidents that we had. Well, actually, we're just looking back there. Now we're looking at that incident again that has caused. And you see the Porsche coming out, it got held up. It didn't realise, I don't think, that people were braking because of an incident. So carried a lot of speed in and bosh! Oh, a lot of damage done to both cars. Fiberglass, of course, rather than metal bodywork on the Lotus, and that fiberglass just shatters in an accident like that.
Just something I just noticed when talking about start drivers, the Cottingham car on our screens is shown as solo driven by James, and indeed on the timing screens as well. So
okay.
Harvey Stanley not driving that. So that's a question mark we had, which is answered.
Fair enough. And oh, the Ogle is back out. That's good to see. Hopefully catching up to the back of the train of cars, and we may be able to still see it. It's not going to be able to battle quite as much as we would have liked, but it's good that it is back onto the circuit once again. So we have lost a few cars in this race already. That car has rejoined, as I say, down at the back in 54th place, but we've lost several machines from the race. There is the number 15 car of Ollie Bryant running in second position.
The Bryant family have had that Cobra for many years. It's Graham, Ollie's dad, also shares with him sometimes, although Ollie's driving solo in this race. And it's a gorgeous looking car in those red and gold colours, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, looks stunning. The TVR is behind, and then we've got the Paddy Shovlin, Michael Cullen car. So we'll see how that gets on. Made the brilliant start in the opening move, but whether it's going to be able to do the same thing when this race gets underway, we shall have to wait and see. Still haven't had the sign that the safety car's coming in, but I imagine it will do. There is a Marcos in the middle of the field there as well, which is good to see. Just I think there's only the one of them in this entry. It's Ian Pearson and Callum Grant in a 1965 Marcus 1800 GT.
And I noticed that number 27, which was on pole position, put there by Andy Jordan, is running in the middle of the top 10, or just behind perhaps Roy Alderslade. So I wonder whether that's Roy who started.
Yes, I imagine that's probably the case.
I don't think Roy would mind me saying that Andy is probably the quicker of the two of them.
Well, we know Andy's great performance, started out in rallycross and then great efforts in touring cars as well. Brilliant to see him in touring cars, not racing in that field now. Yeah, so there it is, the number 27 car. So a bit of work to be done there, but we're not quite into the pit window opening yet either. Now, safety car is coming in this lap, so it heads to the pits, and we're ready to go racing full flat-out pace once again as the leader, Julian Thomas, begins to pick up the pace out of club corner, under pressure from Ollie Bryant behind, and then it's all quite close with Mike Whitaker in third place in the TVR, but he's coming under quite a lot of threat from the Paddy Shovlin Michael Cullen car. Up into Abbey they come, and the top two very evenly matched. Ollie Bryant sliding around a bit in his Cobra, whereas Julian Thomas took that beautifully, didn't drift too wide, keeping nice control here, and is hoping to build up a little bit more of an advantage.
Ollie Bryant, hugely experienced in everything from historic racing through to Le Mans, and he's trying to hold on to the slipperier shape of the Shelby Daytona Cobra coupe rather than the more traditional Cobra shapes, and a retirement from one of the E-types, or at least it stopped.
It's the car of Mike and Matthew Wrigley. Oh, and we've got an Elan that has stopped.
That's Rob Fenn.
Oh dear.
166, I think.
Yeah,
Rob Fenn in the Lotus.
So it's not proving to be a particularly good time reliability-wise for a variety of reasons. We've seen accidents as well, but cars now just pulling off to the side of the track. Let's hope that they can get them out of the way quickly, and we don't have to go back to another safety car. Look at Ollie Bryant in second place, launching that car around the flat-out right-hander as Whitaker, but it's flat-out only just by the look of it in that car. It's slipping and sliding. The livery on it is absolutely gorgeous, and it shines in the light here at Silverstone as we head them up towards Maggots and Beckett's corner. There's not much of a gap between these two. Different styles of Cobras, but that's what they are, and that's where the E-Type is, actually on the entry to Stowe Corner. It's just pulled over. Not a great place, because that is a potential overtaking slot. So you'll see the yellow flags are waving. No overtaking will be allowed into Stowe, which is a bit of a shame, because it is one of the key overtaking areas on the track. waved yellow flags. Do not overtake, do not get alongside your rival heading down into this corner, because you are not allowed to gain a position as a result. Number 214 has come into the pits now.
That's the DP214
yes.
recreation car. That's the Aston Martin.
Anthony Wiles and John Goldsmith. The pit window hasn't actually officially opened yet, has it?
No, I was just looking at the screen in case it had, but it's not showing on our screen, so that's an out of sequence stop as the leader's now starting to lap. That's an Elan they've just lapped, and then the Mike Whittaker car gets through as well, the Griffith, and then behind them is the Cobra of, we think, the solo-driven James Cottingham Cobra. But it's Julian Thomas who still leads, but Ollie Bryant is a little bit closer, isn't he? He's not in a challenging position, but he's closed up a little bit as they went through those slower cars into Village, and up to the loop they go, and Bryant almost threw his car into the corner, didn't he? Pit window is now open, so it looks like that stop a few minutes ago, well, a few seconds ago, was early.
Yeah, I think it was a fraction too early. They might get a penalty for that, but it does mean that people can make their pit stops. I wonder if they may stay out a little longer just to build up a little bit more of a gap if they possibly can. That E-type has been moved to the side, so hopefully that means the yellow flags can be withdrawn, because it's in an area that is relatively safe now, rather than being right by the side of the track, which is where it was. And we're seeing a few moves up and down. The Cullen shoveling car has come in the pits now, so whoever was driving, we thought it might be Paddy, but it might have been Michael Cullen, who was, can we see here who's actually getting into the car and who's got out? A bit difficult to spot right now, isn't it? A tiny cockpit like that.
We think it was Michael Cullen in the car first.
Oh, right, okay.
We're getting dribs and drabs of start driver information coming through, so we think that one's Michael Cullen.
Okay, thanks for that. So we did pull that a bit wrong. Sorry about that. Paddy Shovelin is now in the car. Number 47 is currently in the pits. Peter James and Alan Letts doing a swap over as our race leader continues. Julian Thomas. We're pretty sure it's Julian because he always starts the race. Yes, it is. Thank you. Callum Lockie will take over when they decide to make their pit stop. And these three are really breaking away from the rest now, Alistair, aren't they? There's quite a big gap developing behind them. Number 264 into the pits, that's the TVR, James Thorpe and Phil Quaife. I imagine that Phil may be taking over at this point. I don't know who started. Yes, okay, Phil is taking over, thank you. So we are seeing a few changes with 28 minutes to go.
And leader Julian Thomas slides the Shelby Daytona Cobra Coupe into the Brooklands and Luffield section, and Oliver Bryant running very wide there through Luffield. That was Club Corner. The tight camera shot, it looks so much like Luffield, but that was Club Corner, and now onto the Hamilton Straight, now through the right and left at Abbey and Farm, and you can see cars coming out of the pit lane there in the background. That's coming out of the international pits.
We've got such a big field here of cars that we are going to see plenty of pit stops. Let's hope they all go smoothly without too many dramas. This car is still leading the race by just 1.5 seconds over Ollie Bryant. Ollie's not sharing the car with anybody else. He'll have to make the pit stop going past the oval that we saw having to come into the pits earlier, keeping out of the way. Look at the way Ollie drives that. I love to watch it. It's just on the limit. But he clearly loves it. As you said, the family's owned this car for a long time. He feels totally at home in it, doesn't he? Absolutely,
yes. It's like a sort of a glove when he puts it on. He knows exactly what he's going to do. And you can see Ollie working very hard at the wheel there. It's deceptive, isn't it? It doesn't look like he's moving around much. He's a very, very smooth driver. But actually, when you look at his hands on the wheel, he's constantly adjusting the line of the car with the steering wheel as they come out of Woodcote and onto the original pit straight, down towards Cops Corner and into the right-hander. And Ollie has not given up on trying to get through for the lead of this race.
It's great. I love the angles that we're getting of just those little glimpses inside the cockpit with Ollie Bryant. We're not getting quite the same from Julian's car, and of course it's a bit more of a closed cockpit, so it's harder to see. I don't think Julian's doing quite the same steering movement or steering effort in that car. Let's just watch him through Beckett. You see he's quite smooth, gets a little bit of oversteer there, slight correction, but behind him, Ollie, it's like a lot more lock one way than the other. And yet, as you say, the car actually doesn't look unstable. He keeps it looking very smooth despite all this work going on at the steering wheel.
Absolutely, yes. He's such a smooth driver, but just doing those little tiny corrections to keep the car precisely where he wants it on the road. And has he taken a tighter line there? Yes, he has. He took a tighter line and got the lead going through in Stowe, but in fact into the pits has come Julian Thomas to hand over to Callum Lockie. Now that's interesting. He's come up behind a slower car, and he's not yet in the pit in the speed limit area, so he'll be very frustrated by that.
This could be a chance for Ollie Bryant if he gets a couple of clear laps in here before he decides to make his stop and then gets a clear entry to the pit lane. Really could be an opportunity gaining advantage. Depends a little bit on the traffic. There's the Marcos I mentioned earlier, a very elegant early car from the 1960s. And the Marcos we've seen racing in British GT for such a long time over the years, some quite recent times to be honest. So it's going to be a swap now as Callum Lockie is going to take over the Shelby Daytona Cobra. And this car is still going to be a contender for the win, but they've definitely lost a bit of time coming into the pits, and that could prove to be a little bit crucial. Callum will be fast once he comes back out onto the circuit, and we just don't know how much Ollie Bryant is going to get some clear laps in. Fastest lap of this race so far does belong to Julian Thomas, a 2-minute 23. That last lap was not particularly quick though, because he did get a bit held up. It was recorded, and he was coming in the pits of course, so it was recorded as a 2-minute 30-second lap. But Ollie Bryant now is trying to string together a couple of fast laps, see if he can gain an edge over this number 192 car.
And a lovely shot in through the sliding window there of Callum Lockie inside the Julian Thomas owned Shelby Daytona Cobra Coupe, which Julian has just handed over to Callum. Callum's waiting for the time to tick down. He's got the car in gear, he's put his hand on the wheel, he's got the clutch in, he's revving the engine. We're not going to see him pull away, yes, there he goes. So he's pulled away, he's given the signal to go, and this car is trying to put in a really quick lap to try and take an advantage over the 192 darker coloured Cobra.
Yeah, and I think we are going to have a battle between them, but let's just see when Ollie decides to come into the pits. The pit window is still open. He's still got a little while before he has to come in, but at some point they must decide to make the stop, and he has to sit and pause and wait, even though he's not swapping the car over to somebody else. So this has changed the standings up front for a little while. We've now got the number 144 car running in second position, George Pochkiol and James Hansen. That car is currently running second, but it is of course partly because quite a lot of cars have made their pit stop. Now this was Callum Lockie when he came out. Was there an error? Yeah, he ran wide, got on the grass. You can see he was pushing hard straight away. Actually didn't lose too much time. That would have cost him about a second or a couple of seconds maybe, because he had to lift right off, but no damage done. He can get on it again.
It's very unusual to see Callum make a mistake, and he's got Mike Whitaker right behind him.
He has. That's crucial, isn't it?
So Mike must have been in the pits as well. Let's just check our timing screens. A little bit further down now, he's done his pit stop, but I can only assume that he's done his pit stop.
Yeah, no, Mike has also, you're right, he's on his out, and he's gone past. Callum runs wide there. So I don't know quite why Callum's struggling. I wonder if there's anything wrong with the car. Suddenly it's slipping and sliding all over the place, and Whitaker's gone through in the TVR. They've got a Porsche in there that's not quite part of the same battle at this stage. This is all probably good news for Ollie Bryant, who was running a very close second before the pit stops session started. Now, is he going to be coming in yet or not? He's still got a little bit of time before he decides whether he's going to be coming into the pit lane. And some more lovely close-up shots of him really on the limit everywhere. And another we've got a problem for the 69 car. Now that was the car we saw earlier. Of course we now know it is Paddy Shovlin in that car, the number 69. It took the lead in the opening lap, but then dropped away, and it looks like that's had a bit of a spin on the exit of Beckett's, but he's got it running up again, and hopefully can get himself back into the game. But certainly Callum Lockie has lost out on some performance on the car. Let's see if we can find out what happened here. So Exeter Beckett's right, yeah, got it a bit too sideways on the final part, and it just spun away from him. Understandable, make that mistake. And it does seem to be the drivers who have taken over the cars who are struggling. Maybe the drivers who were in the cars initially, of course, they were adjusting to the change of grip level that was out there. It's always much harder when you're the second driver and you just have to go flat out from the word go. You've had no formation laps, unlike the start driver, no experience really to know where there's grip and where there isn't any. Into the pits now comes the man who could end up leading this race after the pit stops are completed. Let's see how Ollie Bryant, he hasn't got held up on the way in, unlike Julian Thomas did, but we also know that since Julian handed over to Callum, they've also lost some pace, and it is actually Whittaker in the TVR who's been going very, very strongly.
In fact, if this is a live shot, which I believe it is,
yes,
he's back ahead again. So Callum Lockie is ahead once more of Mike Whittaker's TVR as they come down the pit straight with passing the Martin Melling, Jason Minshaw E-Type. Now this is Ollie Bryant, no change of driver, so he's not got to get out of the car, but he still has to stop for the allotted time, so there's no advantage in terms of the pit stop time, but perhaps a little advantage in staying in the car, because as you've just described, he's really in tune with the car and the track. Tyre pressure's being checked. He's maybe said he'd like some pressure out of the tyres, certainly none going in, but it may just be to check that there's no slow puncture.
So we've still got Callum Lockie now back in front of Mike Whittaker in the TVR. So whatever happened on that opening lap, Callum seems to have got himself back into a rhythm with this car. Of course, they are jumping from different cars all the time, and sometimes you just get a little caught out by the handling nature of the one you're jumping into. The Cobra famously is never the easiest machine. The pit window is closed. I think most people have done their stop, although just looking at the number 80 car, that which is quite well up in the order, indicated that it hasn't made a stop yet.
Ollie Bryant has just left his pit stall. He's coming up the pit approach road. Here is Callum Lockie, and they're almost side by side coming out of the pit lane. Who is going to get the lead going up to Village?
This is the battle for the lead after the pit stops, and Ollie Bryant coming right up there with Callum and locks up. Oh, he locks up big style. Callum Lockie locking up quite suitably enough, and Ollie Bryant gets back in front. Well, he was following that car before the pit stops began, and he's had a great exit from the pits to come out just in front, and Callum tried to brake as late as possible to hang on to that top spot. It's not over yet though, because as we saw earlier, if anything, that coupe has good performance, and it's having a little look as Ollie Bryant now shuts the door at Brooklands. We could be on for quite a battle between these two.
Absolutely we could, yes. What a great middle of the race where they did their pit stops, coming out side by side. Callum Lockie goes tight through Luffield. He's got the inside now for Woodcote Corner, which will give him the line for Copse, but he's already got the job done. He's ahead as they come out of Woodcote, but Ollie will have another go, I'm sure, as they go into Copse Corner. He doesn't jink out, no, he stays behind. Perhaps he's building up for a challenge slightly later on in the lap.
It does look to me as though the car of Thomas and Lockie has got a little bit more stability than Ollie's car, and now that it's got in front, I think this could be a bit of a tall order, although Callum is getting a bit carried away at times, very unlike him. He's sliding around a lot. We've seen a couple of mistakes from him today in this car, and maybe that's just an indicator of how he knows you've got to push it to the limit to beat Ollie Bryant today, because it is a close battle between these two cars. It's a lower car, more aerodynamic, it's quicker in a straight line as well. Quite a different shape, even though they are based on the same sort of chassis of car.
Absolutely, yes. In fact, the Daytona Cobra Coupe was built from a wrecked chassis of a normal Cobra, such as the red one you see there, by the mechanics at the Shelby factory. They said to Carroll Shelby, we think we can build a car that's more aerodynamic, and they came up with the Daytona Cobra Coupe. They then made 6 of them for competition, but many more have been built since as recreations, and in fact the Julian Thomas car is a recreation. And up to we've got number 80 in the pit lane now, can't be doing a normal stop because the pit window is closed, and that is the Richard Hewell Evans Cobra.
Yes, that was just making a very late stop with, as you say, with the pit window closed, so that doesn't really feature now in the overall order. this is the battle for the outright victory between these two, and they're keeping it pretty close. There's still 16 minutes to go. These two AC Cobras of somewhat different styles, picking their way through the traffic now, and Callum Lockie with the edge at this stage, coming up to lap the number 61 car shortly of Simon Gann. See the car control once again from Ollie. Beautifully done. I just love watching that sideways motion, the oversteer on the exit of the corners. Highly entertaining stuff.
But never overly sideways.
No, absolutely.
Really controlled, isn't it? Lovely smooth driving style, as has Callum Lockie, another experienced driver, as they come up to Copse Corner once again, turning in through the fast right-hander. But now you feel that Ollie has had his chance to try and stay ahead, and Callum is now just easing away gradually. The car much slipperier shape.
So Whittaker's still in third place in the TVR, but it's interesting, I think Andrew Jordan is on board the number 27 car now, the other Cobra, and he is making up some ground, isn't he? He's managed to get up into fourth position now.
Yes, Andrew's actually just set the fastest lap in that car, not overall, but in that car, which is unsurprising, given that he's ex-British touring car champion.
Yeah, and it's only a fraction off the fastest lap so far, actually, which was set on lap number 7. We've had 11 laps in this race, and we've still got just under 15 minutes to go. There's the car that we saw having a little spin on the exit of Beckett, still looking a little bit sideways there on the outside of the corner. This time it was well corrected and kept under control. And this is quite a nice little battle that's going on in that group in the top 10. For 10th place, as you can see, there are a few little changes going on. The number 16 car of Andrew Haddon is leading that particular group, the Lotus Elan. And we saw Andrew out earlier on. He's been delivering well, and there is Pretty Little Lotus, but it's now being chased by the car of Paddy Shovlin that was so strong in the early stages, but then for some reason dropped back down the order. There's another Pretty Little Lotus Elan too. That is the Stefan Gerbstal Andy Willis car. And
we shouldn't perhaps count Andrew Jordan out of certainly a podium, but even just knocking on the door of a win here. It's going to be hard work, because the two cars ahead of him, plus Mike Whittaker as well, are almost as quick. But certainly Andy looks like he might be able to catch Mike Whittaker, who was only 1.4 seconds behind. And it's actually less than a second now, isn't it? We've got our much more accurate timing on our graphics there, which picks up the timing from the multiple timing points around the circuit. And looks as though Andy Jordan is going to get that third place very shortly.
Yeah, he's on a charge. So he's likely to get past the TVR of Mike Whittaker, but then it's a question of can he close up what is quite a big gap to Ollie Bryant. Ollie Bryant staying on terms with Callum Lockie, even if the gap is slightly too big to get alongside, and maybe dealing with traffic is going to be a fundamental factor here for both of them as to who comes out as race winner. A few little Lotuses to overtake, somewhat less quick in a straight line, but very nimble through the corners, the Lotuses. And some 911s now being lapped as well, some Porsche 911s, and Callum Lockie diving down the inside on the approach to Stowe Corner.
And to Stowe he goes. We can see him again working away at the wheel, a little bit sideways, a lovely drift through there as he goes down into the Vale. And yep, Andy Jordan has got Roy Alderslade's Daytona Cobra Coupe ahead of the Mike Whittaker Griffith. So he's up into third place, and we'll see now whether he can close the gap on the similar cars ahead of him. Ollie Bryant's a different body shape, but very similar cars with the same 4.7 litre Ford V8 engine.
The gap just being shown as 5.5 seconds. So yeah, Andrew Jordan is absolutely flying in his particular Cobra, as you mentioned. We will get a look at it in a moment, as Callum Lockie's getting a little held up in traffic, getting past the Ford Shelby Mustang of Laurie Tucker, or trying to, hasn't done it yet, should do on the exit of the corner. Yeah, that's done quite easily on the inside, but this is perhaps slowing him down a fraction more than he would have liked. still, Ollie Bryant's going to have the same problem getting past in the background. You can see Ollie hurtling around on the exit of the corner, always running quite wide out of that turn. But Jordan's closing that gap to Ollie Bryant. So there is Ollie, and then in the background, not too far away now, is Andrew Jordan in another of the Cobras. Oh, and that ends up spinning that car that we just saw of Laurie Tucker. That was just a mishap, I think. The leaders had already just gone past. Maybe got a bit carried away, thinking, if that's where they can brake, I can brake there too. Oh no, I can't. Often the way you learn is being passed by a quicker car, but then discovering that actually you can't quite do what they've done. Now, can we see? Yes, there you are. There's Andrew.
Andrew with the headlights on and chasing down the red and gold Cobra in second place. The gap was around 5 or 6 seconds. It's still showing on our graphic as similar, but we'll have to wait till the next update on the 2 sector times that we have around the track, and then the third one at the timing line at the finish.
Trying to get past the number 36 car, the Lotus Elan of Nick Sleep and Alex Montgomery. Gets through there quite neat and tidily.
Just about to come down to another timing point, and the gap we are timing on the screen now. Thank you to our graphics people for putting that up, because the gap is 7.2. Now that's about 1.3 quicker, closer than when you mentioned it the last time at 8.5, I think you said.
Yeah, and it's clearly it's partly the traffic as well is having an effect on this. We'll look at the overall lap times. So last time around, Jordan was the quickest of the top 3. We're just about to see what they're going to do now. So Callum's done a 2 minute 24, Bryant's a 2 minute 23, and Jordan a 2 minute 25. So he got held up on that lap. Yeah, he definitely got held up. He needs a bit of clear space, and he may get it this time. Looks like there's a bit more, a bit more space ahead of him. He should be able to put a good lap together. Yeah,
it's even the skills of Andrew Jordan. It's nip and tuck, isn't it? Because Ollie Bryant ahead, an equally accomplished driver, and we know Callum Lockie is just quick in anything as well. A very, very good driver. So we've got 3 exceptionally good drivers in 3 very similar cars. So it's going to be hard work for Andrew to close the gap on Ollie.
Yeah, Callum is a former British GT champion. Andrew, as you said, a former British touring car champion. Ollie, who's well, he's raced in all sorts, including Le Mans, as you mentioned. So he's done a huge amount over the years, and they all are very talented. Lots and lots of experience, and using their skills to their utmost here to try and hang on in. So it's still pretty close. We've got 8 minutes to go in a race, and 3 AC Cobras. Oh, the boots come open on Ollie's car. Now, is that going to be a help or a hindrance, do you think?
It's not DRS, is it?
No, no, it's not DRS. It looks a bit like it. It's got a flap coming down there on the rear of the car. Might add a little bit of drag rather than take it away, but let's hope that it hangs on in there.
Not a great deal of room.
A spin from it. Oh, that looks a bit more than a spin. There's damage done to the Andy Willis car. It's hard to see exactly what's happened there. It looks as though it might have quite a bad incident. Might have gone upside down, so that could mean a safety car. So, well, whether they can get that car out of the way, we should have to wait and see. But yeah, hopefully, well, we're not seeing any signs of a safety car as yet. The gap up front, 3.3 seconds. Hasn't managed to make up too much ground on this particular lap. Not quite as much as we thought he might be able to. The sector times are pretty similar between him and Bryant, to be honest. So Jordan hasn't been able to do much to close up that gap, but he has got himself into a fine 3rd position, a potential podium heading the way of the Alderslade Jordan car.
Shot there, well, Andrew Jordan going very wide indeed onto the green section there outside of Woodcote Corner, coming up to Copse now, turns in on the inside of a Healey 3000. There's Mike Whitaker in the Griffith in the TPR in 4th place, and no sign of the car being driven back into a place of safety. So despite the amount of damage on that car, thankfully the driver able just to drive it up to the side of the track.
Well, we're going to see what happened, and I think I hear that it was quite a big accident. A look Society, it has rolled. Oh my goodness, look at that. That is a frightening looking accident, isn't it? And it's rare to see a car roll on the tarmac. It's really quite rare to see that. Normally you'll see a car go off onto grass or gravel and then flick into a roll. Quite unusual to see it on tarmac. Now, whether that's because some of this tarmac still has a bit of slippery patch and then he hit a slippery patch and then hit a grippy patch, I don't know. But a nasty rollover. Thankfully, looking at the way it rolled, actually the contact with the roof is not as heavy as you sometimes see. It kind of bounced off the roof in the motion, and I think, as we've seen, the driver has actually been able to drive it to a place of safety. So well done to the driver, who seems to be okay, but I'm afraid there's a lot of damage done to that pretty Lotus.
We're looking now at our leader with 5¼ minutes remaining. The leader is Callum Lockie, taken over from Julian Thomas, who started the race, and coming out onto the Hangar Straight. There is Ollie Bryant in second place in the gold and red Cobra, and in third place I'm seeing a TVR, but that might be a different one of a similar colour, because we were expecting to see Andy Jordan come through next and then Mike Whitaker in the TVR. We'll wait to see until we get an update on the graphic. I think that was just a different TVR in the long shot we could see in the background.
Still enjoying those shots of Ollie Bryant slithering and sliding around, despite the track pretty much dry now. John Pearson, Gary Pearson, Jaguar E-Type car also coming through. Then also the 117 machine, Mark Burnett and Nick's. Sorry, no, but this is the 117 car. Which one is that? Lost it on my list.
Andreas Halusa.
Thank you. And
61 cars, Ben.
Yeah,
it's
I can't
a lot
keep
of
up
cars
at the moment. Yeah, yes, that's right, because they were entered originally as number 70, and that's why I didn't manage to spot exactly where they were. So number 117. In the meantime, we've got a great mix still going on here, and car number 16, Andrew Haddon, who we saw delivering a great result earlier on in the pre-66 Grand Prix car race. He's doing pretty well in the Lotus too. 12th place overall, and fast amongst the little cars, but there's no change up front. Still a useful advantage for Callum Lockie as he picks his way through the traffic. That's something he is so experienced at doing, dealing with the traffic. And Andrew Jordan, after that initial kind of surge of pace that we saw from Andrew, it does seem to have eased off. Fastest lap suddenly has gone to the other Cobra that did so well at the beginning of this race. Paddy Shuplin in that car done a 2-minute 22.5, which is a second quicker than Callum Lockie's done. They've had a very up and down race, haven't they, in that number 69 car?
Yes, that's, where did he get that one from? It's very odd that suddenly goes that much quicker. But Callum Lockie comes through, passes one of the Mustangs on the inside at the middle element of Beckett's. Now leading out through Chapel Curve onto the Hangar Straight. Blue car in the background, that's one of the special design project cars from Aston Martin, DP214, a copy thereof. So Callum keeping it smooth, keeping it controlled, looking to try and take a victory. We're getting into the very closing stages of this race now, and it's all looking comfortable for them. Coming around, they're doing laps in 2 minutes 22 seconds, so it does mean that as he comes over the line this time, he will be going on to the final lap of the race, because we'll be going to 0 before he reaches the checker at the line next time. In the background, Ollie Bryant, who has been a star performer in many ways. I've just loved watching the style of driving that he has in that car. There is the other Cobra, which has just set fast his lap. Look at the way it's picking its way through, and it's got a chance to make some places here. Yes, the number 8 car ahead of Tan Con, the similar Cobra, is that's for a position, so they're dropping down into the Vale, now into the left-hander. So Tan Con trying to stay ahead of this the car that suddenly took the lead at the start, and then just recently suddenly took a very, very fastest lap. So it's almost like it's finding some speed from somewhere. So they're coming up the Hamilton Straight up into Abbey. No move there from the red Shovlin car.
He's got a good exit out of Abbey. I think he may still have a bit of a go as they come up towards Village. Yeah, he's having a look down the inside, late braking. Can he get the car stopped? Oh, he locks up front and rear and runs up very deep into the corner and has to give the place back. Locks up again. The car looks a bit odd on the brakes at the moment, I have to say. Maybe that has been a bit of a factor for them. In the slow corners, it seems to be locking brakes very easily, where in the fast corners, it seems to have a much better feel to it.
Yeah, it's very strange. It looked like he was going to go through a Village, but then he went sailing straight on. Now they're coming down to the left-hander at Brookland, squirming around locking brakes there as well. Paddy Shovlin working hard in the cockpit there as they come up towards the right-hander at Luffield, and the car just ahead of him, that of Olivier Tancon. And we're back to the leader again. Yeah. On this last lap. Yeah,
we're getting to the point now, aren't we, of approaching celebration time. In the background, you've got the red and gold car of Ollie Bryant, which has been such a great show from him throughout this race. But well done to Julian Thomas and Callum Lockie, because when Callum went out after the pit stop, he actually made a couple of errors, and then we saw him side by side with Ollie Bryant. Bryant had the advantage briefly, but then Callum got it all together, got back in front, and has managed to open up a useful little advantage. A brilliant race. He's going to take victory in the International Trophy for Classic 366 GT cars. Callum Lockie takes the checker flag and victory. He and Julian Thomas have won. Ollie Bryant finishing in second place, the gap 4.3 seconds. And then looking down the order, Andrew Jordan is going to come through in third. He has just crossed the line. Fourth place for Whitaker in the TVR. Now let's just see if there are going to be any further changes. Is the number 69 car going to be able to gain another place, move up to seventh? It has set fastest lap in this race, but it does seem a bit as though there are some intermittent problems with that car. One moment it's going quickly, the next it either falls off or has a locking brake, so it's not going to happen, but it is going to finish in 8th place. A good effort, but clearly that car wasn't quite as it should be. Perhaps maybe there's a little bit of work to be done. So car number 8 coming across the line in 7th place. So well done to Olivier Tancogne in another of the Cobras. But it is this one, the Shelby Daytona Cobra of Julian Thomas and Callum Lockie, that has taken a well-earned victory. But congratulations to Ollie Bryant. Many drivers could win driver of the day today, but I have to say that Ollie Bryant is one of those, in just in the sheer style that he had in that race. Just loved watching him with the amount of car control that he was using to maintain that second place, and at one point actually have the lead of the race. Getting a lot of applause from the fans here at Silverstone.
Callum, after the pit stops, that was a very busy few laps for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was absolutely great, because as I came through Farm, Ollie was coming out the pits, and it was real nip and tuck together into the Village corner, and we had a bit of a dice, and he got ahead, and then I got back past him, and it was lovely, clean racing, just exactly as it should be, within a few inches, but not touching. Just really great fun racing with him.
Julian, after such an action-packed race, a satisfying result.
Yes, definitely. We've had quite a hard weekend so far. Bit of damage in the Falcon yesterday. Both of us had our own incidents at the front of the pack. So today was this last race. It's been a real good reward for our dogged efforts today.
Well done, Ollie. It was absolutely wonderful to watch. Must have been slightly frustrating to not have another sort of half a second a lap.
Yeah, it was great fun. I mean, we've had a car many years and won this race with it in the past, so the Daytonas are on the high-speed circuits, are definitely the superior equipment, but it was great to mix it with them, and good battling with Julian, who's driving fantastic nowadays. He's improving every year. He's giving Callum a run for his money, I bet. So no, it's great racing against them, and AJ and Roy in the other Daytona in third. So great weekend so far, and good to get a race in the drive for a change.
Yeah. Ryan, Andrew, I was going to ask what slowed you down, but Andrew, looking at how puffed you are, you were obviously putting everything into that last stint.
Yeah, I was working hard. It's great to get a podium. I was disappointed, would have liked to challenge for the win, but there's some traffic out there, and the car was quite hard work. So I felt a bit bad for Roy at the start, throwing him in the deep end with Dampy Patch starting off pole. So cracking to get the car's first podium here at Silverstone Classic, and to stand on the podium with Roy is really good.
Roy, just quickly, it's a new car for you. It must be so satisfying for you to be up here on the podium.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was probably overcautious initially and concerned about the damp conditions, and I tried to get on it a bit, had a little spin, put us further back. But as Andrew just said, it's all part of the learning, and very satisfied to be up here. Very good.
Congratulations to you all.